I'm going to speak about the transaction of Apostle Paul. When Apostle Paul moved from being Saul into being Paul, and the mystery behind the changing of the apostle. If you read the book of Acts, you will see that Apostle Paul, he began his journey as a martyr, and he was somebody who was against the Church of Christ. So now he's receiving instruction to go and attack the Church of God. In the book of Acts chapter 9, verse 3, I think. So when this thing was happening, that's where the light attacked him. But before this, he was told that he must go and attack a man by the name of Ananias. And Ananias was a priest at that time. So the time when he was going to attack Ananias, a light appeared to him. And from there, Apostle Paul became blind. He could not see anything. So when he became blind, the people around him, they were surprised what's happening. So the time when God began to speak to Apostle Paul, God asked him, "Why do you persecute me?" And Apostle Paul said, "Who are you, Lord?" So when Apostle Paul said this word, the people, they were surprised. Who does he talk to? Because the people, they could hear the sound, but they could not hear the voice. They could not hear what the voice saying. So now Apostle Paul was given out an instruction to go into the house, call straight, and remain there and wait to be prayed by a man. And now for 3 days he could not eat and he could not see. He was a blind man. So now God had to go and speak again to the same man whom Apostle Paul was trying to attack, was trying to kill or to arrest the man. That go and pray for Apostle Paul, and from there the man will begin to see. And this man knew Apostle Paul as a Pharisee, that this man is against your church. So at some point, he did not want to pray for him. And he went back to pray for him. And when he prayed for him, Apostle Paul began to see. And from there, God began to speak that I've chose this man. I've made him, he's going to be an apostle. He's my chosen vessel. He's going to suffer for the gospel. And again now, the people, like Apostle Peter, Apostle John, Apostle Philip, they were afraid of Apostle Paul because they knew him as a Pharisee. So it was hard for him to be accepted. So they are asking themselves many questions. How do you accept a person who was fighting us? So Apostle Paul, it was hard for him to be accepted. And when they saw Apostle Paul preaching, they said the same man who was against Jesus Christ, who was against the gospel, is the same man who's now preaching the same gospel. He is now preaching the same thing that I was fighting against it. But look at what he went through. He went through rejection. He went through many pains. But for him to change, he had to have an encounter with God. One encounter. It is the one that made this man to become great in the spirit. His greatness, it came the time when the light attacked his eyes. At that time, God began to speak to Apostle Paul until he is now used by God. And he became the greatest apostle in the Bible. Apostle Paul is the same man who wrote many books in the Bible. The book of Romans, the book of Corinthians, the book of all many books that were wrote about by Apostle Paul. Philip, Ephesians, they were wrote by him. He's the one who wrote many books in the Bible. And this man is full of wisdom. But look where he's coming from. He's coming from being a sinner, from being a murderer. Don't judge people if you don't know the will of God about their lives. God can choose a prostitute. God can choose a murderer. God can choose the worst sinner and rise him as an apostle. Rise him as a woman or a man of God. And if you don't know, Jesus Christ is the biggest sinner in this world. Because on the cross of Calvary, all our sins, they came on him. He became the worst sinner of all time. Because that's why even Jesus Christ, he was denied by God on the cross. The time when he was crying, he was saying, Elo, Elo, lama sabachthani, is because God himself did not want him. God was denying him because the sins of the people were upon him. So the time when the sins were upon him, he went down and he rose again. When he rose again, everything was now cleared. That means in the spirit, you can think that you are a sinner, but in the eyes of God, you can be accepted. Don't worry about what people are saying about you. God will choose you in the midst of rejection.